Many thanks for joining this episode of Gist Nigeria, brought to you by the BBC and Channels Television. And here we track stories online in the news and dissect them. I am Wale Fakile. Now to our top story. Nigeria has some of the bravest servicemen and women in its armed forces, from the Air Force to the Army, Navy and the police. These men and women put their lives on the line to keep the peace. But while they go about this, some of them suffer post-traumatic stress and other mental disorders, which are often left untreated and affect their functionality in society after retirement. In this story, I speak with some ex-service personnel to understand the unending battles, the fights with flashes of violence which they witnessed while actively serving their fatherland. But please be warned that this report has some graphic descriptions that some viewers might find offensive. Sacrifice, a word that echoes through the lives of those who wear the uniform. For many, their sacrifice is not just measured in lives lost, but in the silence that follows them home.
You are seeing death. At the end of the day, you will never become normal.
Their scars, though unseen, tell stories louder than words ever could.
I left the army barely 5 years, and as early as 5 years, I'm still trying as much as possible to do away with all these things in my head.
Although their battles have ended on the field, it rages on in their minds. For over a decade, Nigerian military personnel have fought battles on multiple fronts: Boko Haram, armed bandits, and separatist groups across the country. But beyond the battlefield lies another war, the silent battle within. Hundreds of military personnel leave service every year in Nigeria. Many return to their communities and loved ones, unaware of the invisible scars they carry. The symptoms they exhibit are often misunderstood even by themselves. Post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, is a mental health condition that affects millions of military personnel globally. It is an anxiety disorder that may develop after exposure to a terrifying ordeal where grave physical harm occurred or was threatened. In Nigeria, the stigma surrounding mental health has left many ex-servicemen and women to battle this condition in silence.
And I feel like running out of my house. Sometimes I look around me that maybe something like gone is going to happen, something critical is going to happen to me. Sometimes if I hear the sound of noise around me, maybe it's like sound like a gunshot or something, you know, I feel agitated and afraid.
I used to know them even before we met in the theater, and we didn't even come back together. So when I see anybody called their names, when I see anybody called Dada, anybody answer Salami, anybody called Mustafa, I'm not seeing this, even this live person next to me, I'm not seeing him, I'm remembering my guys.
The psychological toll of Nigeria's internal conflicts has been massive. From Boko Haram insurgency to communal clashes, ex-servicemen and women are left to process unimaginable horrors on their own.
I feel lost. For 3 days, I may not be able to sleep. Thinking about it, saying it, that somebody like me that we're wearing uniform together, something happened that person went to war, coming back with eyes plucked out, legs amputated. You know, it can happen to anybody.
I can't touch a gas cylinder up till now. I can't touch a gas cylinder. You know, when people are filling gas, if you go to a gas shop where they're filling gas, they'll even be shaking it like, excuse me, I'll just run away, because I saw what I've seen explosions, I've seen the result of it.
But few recognize these as signs of a mental health condition.
The fact that they start to avoid places, people, or situations that can trigger the memories of their trauma, the fact that they have emotional numbness or feeling that are detached from their loved ones, what we call also hypervigilance, that is always feeling on the edge or unsafe or even in peaceful environment. Some of them even go into substance abuse, a common coping mechanism.
The sense or the memory of the loved ones, memory of near misses and all those things, all piles up and remain in their brain and keep reoccurring. So they keep having a continuous anxiety and going through stressful situation.
In Nigeria, seeking help for mental health issues often carries a stigma, more so for soldiers expected to embody strength.
The stigma that, tough it out culture within the military often discourages help-seeking behavior. So some fear it could damage their career or reputation if they are vulnerable to express themselves, that they are not dealing with some issues.
Nigeria's wars have left an indelible mark on its armed forces. Over the last decade, thousands of soldiers have been deployed to fight insurgencies in the northeast. Many of them serve multiple rotations, spending years away from families in high-stress environments. Yet, there is no nationwide database tracking the mental health of Nigerian veterans.
The awareness is still very low, and it's important that we in Nigeria bring it to the forefront so that the veterans know their life after leaving this military reign, what they should expect and what the family members, their friends and loved ones can do.
Many veterans struggle with symptoms for years, thinking it's personal failure or bad luck. But PTSD and other mental disorders don't just affect the individual, it affects their families, friends, and communities, often with far-reaching ripple effects.
For instance, I tell my child, clean my car and warm it, and there's this way you must have started the car and you're still holding the key, and there's this string on the end, and I would just explain, you want to spoil that car, and you're like, that is not just car. I said, well, you think it's just car, but it could cause damage. But I know very well that, anything that tends to shift my mind from the normal, I give it an explosive reaction. I know.
Family will go through like a war front experience, and they will not understand. The children that have missed their father and want him to be the same loving father that left and came back maybe after 2 years or 1 year at the battlefront is no longer that same person. And so that trauma, they are now becoming part of the trauma. They are now like the second, I don't know what to call it, sufferers of the trauma, because the behavior of the father is now traumatic to them. So basically they can't understand.
So what is being done to help silent victims of war?
Anybody has left the army, the relationship that exists between them is your verification to verify that you are still alive, to be collecting your pension and the payment of the pension. Any other attention of such is given to serving soldiers because there are actually a lot to deal with even in the service.
Efforts to get reactions from the Nigerian Defense Headquarters met a brick wall. Defense spokesperson Major General Buba Edward cancelled the scheduled interview with Just Nigeria 2 times. But in February 2024, Edward told Punch newspapers that PTSD centers have been set up for soldiers currently on the front lines. If left unaddressed, the impact of mental health disorders will ripple across generations. Experts say raising awareness is the first step.
It's an obligation of government to ensure that every military person, every arm-carrying personnel needs to go through regular therapy to help stabilize them and their family as an extension, and even the society.
Not everybody will jump into medicating. There are other ways that they can be managed. Cognitive behavioral therapy is very, very key for coping, for developing life skills, for them to be able to enjoy life, not necessarily enduring life.
They fought for Nigeria's safety and security. Now, it's time for Nigeria to fight for their mental health. With greater awareness, stronger support systems, and a commitment to breaking the stigma, Nigeria's heroes can win this raging, silent war. We must do more to cater to the mental health needs of our servicemen and women. Thank you for your service. What do you think about this story? Let us know on our X handle at Gist Nigeria TV. We'd like to hear from you.